ready, Mr. Hall.
Alright, I'm approaching my truck and I'm going to make sure I have no puddles underneath it, which would indicate a leak. As I'm easing up front of my truck, checking my clearance light, my signal light, reflector, both sides, signal light, reflector, clearance light, and my headlights. Notice I'm touching all of it. Touch everything that you can touch. Well, they're not cracked or broken, not missing nuts and bolts and screws. They're secure. The clearance light and signal light and reflectors amber in color, and the headlights are clear in color. This brings me back here to my exhaust system, checking my muffler mount, my exhaust pipe, my clamps. I see no soot, which would indicate a leak. Brings me up here to my heat shield and my stack. All that I checked with this is not cracked, bent, or broken, not missing nuts or bolts, and it's secure. I'll raise my hood and continue with the last part of my exhaust system, which is my turbo. My turbo is not cracked, bent, or broken, not missing nuts or bolt screws. It's secure, and there's no soot, which would indicate a leak. Brings me to checking 3 hoses on the right, on the passenger side of my truck. Those 3 hoses, no abrasion, bumps, or cuts, secure on each end, not leaking. I'll always go high and come down low. That's the flow that I'll use. My alternator's not cracked, bent, or broken, not missing nuts or bolts. It's secure. The electric lines are not cut, torn, or broke, and they have a good connection, and there's no corrosion, which this is a belt-driven alternator. The belt has no more than 3/4 inch free play, and it's not cut, torn, worn, or frayed. Which brings me to my water pump. Water pump right here. Not cracked, bent, or broken, not missing nuts or bolts. It's secure, it's not leaking, and it's gear driven. I always give how the major components are driven. Brings me to my 3 hoses on my driver's side of the engine. This hose, this hose, this hose. The reason I'm going to use not cracked, bent, or broken is I did touch a metal hose. Not cracked, bent, or broken, no abrasion, bumps, or cuts. Secure on each end and not leaking. We'll go high and come low, just like I told you I was over there. My coolant reservoir, not cracked, bent, or broken, not missing nuts or bolts. It's secure, and it's not leaking, and it's between the add and the full mark. My line is not cut, torn, or frayed. It has a good connection. My hose going to it has no abrasion, bumps, or cuts. Secure on each end and not leaking. Which brings me down this way. My air compressor, not cracked, bent, or broke, not missing nuts or bolts. It's secure and not leaking, and it's gear driven. There's the gear. The 2 hoses off of it are not cracked, bent, or broken. They're secure on each end and not leaking. Bring me to my dipstick. I pull it out, wipe it off, stick it back in, pull it out. Make sure I'm between the add and the full. There's no metal shavings, and it's the proper color. Bring me to my power steering pump. Not cracked, bent, or broken, not missing nuts or bolts. It's secure and not leaking, and it is also gear driven. My hose coming to it from my reservoir is no abrasion, bumps, or cuts, secure on each end, and not leaking. My reservoir, my power steering reservoir, is between the add and the full. It's not cracked, bent, or broken, not missing nuts, bolts, or clamps, and it's not leaking. Which brings me to my gearbox. My gearbox not cracked, bent, or broke, not missing nuts or bolts. It's secure, not leaking, and my hoses coming off my gearbox had no abrasion, bumps, or cuts, secure on each end and not leaking. My three-piece steering linkage, which consists of pitman arm, drag link, steering knuckle, is not cracked, bent, or broken. And it is secure with both castle nuts, and they're secure with the cotter pins. My sockets are not loose or worn, which brings me to my suspension. My suspension consists of spring mount, front and rear. It is not cracked, bent, or broken, not missing nuts or bolts. It's secure. My spring leaf is not cracked, bent, or broke, not shifted. It's secure with the U-bolts. U-bolts not cracked, bent, or broken, not missing the nuts, which is 4 of them at the bottom of my U-bolts, and they're secure. Brings me to my shock absorber, not cracked, bent, or broke, not missing nuts or bolts. It's secure and not leaking. Which brings me to my brake hose. Brake hose has no abrasion, bumps, or cuts, secure on each end and not leaking. My brake chamber, not cracked, bent, or broke, not missing nuts, bolts, or clamps, secure and not leaking. Which brings me to my push rod slack adjuster. It's not cracked, bent, or broke, not missing nuts, bolts, or parts. I will add parts with this because it's got pins and clips, just missing nuts, bolts, or parts. I will pull out, physically pull out on it, and make sure that I don't have more than 1 inch free play when I pull out on my push rod. Which brings me to my drums and linings. My brake drums, not cracked, bent, or broke, had no holes in them. They're secure, no dirt, oil, or grease. My linings are not cracked, bent, or broke, no pieces missing, not missing nuts, bolts, or parts, and they're secure and no dirt, oil, or grease, and they're not worn thin. Neither the drum nor the lining is worn thin. Which brings me to my inside of my rim and my outside of my rim. Not cracked, bent, or broke, no welds on it, and it's secure with my lug nuts. My lug nuts are all present, they're all tight. There's no rust streaks which would indicate looseness, and they're secure. Which bring me to my hub seal. It's not cracked, bent, or broke, not missing nuts or bolts. It's secure, not leaking. And if it had a sight glass, I make sure it was between the add and the full. Always do the ICD when you're checking your tires. I stands for inflation, which consists of this valve stem. Not cracked, bent, or broke, secure with a metal cap. It's not leaking. I take my air gauge and make sure that my tire was properly inflated. Which brings me to my side walls of my tire. They have no abrasion, bumps, or cuts. The overall it's evenly worn. My tire is evenly worn, and my tread depth is a minimum of 4/32. That's it on the engine compartment.